I'm going to talk about, okay? So I have another area that I added on this that we've gone through the estate planning, right? Anticipating inheritances, that's all part of it. And other questions you could ask there. So before I even maybe get into this, I would probably go through, and it depends on the client, right? So I segmented this out to from a younger client who's in accumulation. There is something you can show them that you can go to bankrate.com. I'm not going to go through this example with you because I want to focus more on people who are more transitioning in retirement tonight, because we've done this other one before. Where you could just show on bankrate.com, there's investment goal calculators there that you can go in and show them whatever they wanted to save, whatever they said they could commit to saving, that you could put it in at 5%, for example, and it'll show them, and put it in a taxable account and show them a certain dollar amount. And you could show them what it would look like tax deferred. Then you could show them what it looked like at a 8 to 10% rate of return. What are you doing? You're just showing them the future, but you're also showing, again, your value, because we know without us, they're going to end up making 3 to 5%. That's a fact. That is the average of investors out there who do not have an advisor make about 3 to 5% return on their investments. People with an advisor make 8 to 9%. And that's a proven study that's been done. So we're showing them our value by saying, this is what we're going to come back and be able to help you do, right? That's if they're a younger client. If there's someone who is a pre-retiree, or 5 to 10 years away from retirement, or they have significant investments already, okay? This is where I'm going to describe what Riskalyze is, okay? And this is, again, you may not have, subscribe to Riskalyze, okay? But if you don't, and you have a client who is in a position where they're about to transition to retirement, you need to bring a trainer, okay? You need to bring a trainer who understands Riskalyze, because this is going to make the world of difference in helping you. Just the most duplicatable thing I can think of to offer to show a client that will be easy to transfer to a trainee, for the trainee to learn as well. Personally, it's been an amazing adjustment we've made in the last year, and it's helped us gather quite a bit more assets than previous years. So you describe what Riskalyze is, and for those of you who don't know, Riskalyze is a software that we're using that actually assesses the risk of portfolios. So it can look at your 401k, Mr. Klein. It can look at your IRA that you have. It could look at your stock portfolio, and it'll assess and look 30 years back in history how volatile or risky those investments are versus the return that they produce. That's called a risk-adjusted return. And that'll assign that investment a number from 1 being the least risky, like cash, to 99, you just invested in Bitcoin or something like that, right? The most aggressive, and everywhere in between. And that'll be very important to help us align your goals with your investment, right? And your risk comfort zone. So we're also going to take a quick test here. It's going to be to figure out what your risk comfort zone is. What are you comfortable with? If your comfort zone is a lot different than your current investments, there's a problem for you. And you may not even see it yet, but it will happen. And sometime in the future, you're going to be like, whoa, there's a big disconnect here. So this is part of the work that I do for clients who are in transition looking to retire within the next few years. So, and then I'll go through Riskalyze. I'm not training on Riskalyze tonight. That's another training. But I'm going to do the risk assessment of their comfort zone. But once I've done this, what do you think this is an open door for me to do next? Is to ask them to securely email their most recent investment statements. And I just send a secure email from my TFA email account that they can respond to with their statements, and it's secure that way. So almost 100%, I can't think of a client that I've dealt with who hasn't sent me their statements from using this system. And if I get their statements and I'm able to put them into Riskalyze, they are the chance of us creating value for this client is almost 100%. Okay. That's why this is such an important process. Okay. So that's the first thing I would do. The next thing I would do with them is I would go in and complete a nationwide healthcare long-term care cost assessment fact finder. That's a mouthful. Okay. But I'm just going to share it just real quickly here, what that looks like. Let me make this bigger. Okay. So this is what it looks like. It's an assessment. I could just pull up the digital version right on my computer and then save it. So I don't have to have a piece of paper I'm fumbling with in this instance, right? It's just an example of a couple clients that I have. Sorry for having their full name there. But this is real simple. It takes less than 5 minutes to fill this out. But what is this really doing? You're pre-qualifying them for life insurance, especially if they're nearing retirement. If they're nearing retirement, they need to know this information. How I'll set it up is, as I say, there's going to be some things, there's going to be some blind spots that you're going to have in retirement that you may or may not even be aware of. One of the biggest ones is healthcare and the cost of healthcare. Not just the cost of healthcare, but also long-term care. And if they're baby boomers, they know. Why do they know? Because they're dealing with a mom or a dad who's probably still alive, and they're realizing that this is now coming down the road for them if it hasn't already. Okay, so a lot of people have experience with this already. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take this quick questionnaire. I'm going to send this to one of our providers, a company called Nationwide. They do a great job at helping us really quantify what these numbers could look like for you in retirement. You just don't want to get caught and blindsided in the middle of retirement and you're looking at how much money of your cash flow you thought was going to be going towards your vacations is now going towards healthcare costs. So now we just go through the questions with them. Again, I'm taking kind of an application, aren't I? I'm finding out if there are any hiccups here. I may find out, man, these people aren't insurable. This is not something I could really even present the next time. Or I find out they're in pretty good shape, and now I'm going to start running numbers before I even get there, right? Because I know kind of what they'll probably qualify for, and what that printout looks like is so professional and nice. It's also extremely scary. So you could look at this. This is like just shows, hey, over time, one of the things about healthcare, it's growing. The cost of it's growing about double to 2 to 3 times the pace of inflation, and that's because getting old is a new thing in this world, right? 2/3 of everyone who's ever hit 65 in the history of the world is alive today. So that's a problem for Medicare. That's a problem for long-term care, and you're not going to retire at 65 and die at 67. You're going to probably live as many years, or in retirement, very possible live as many years in retirement as you worked. So I'll show them this the next time, right? But I'm not going to show this then because obviously I don't have the report yet. But when you're showing this, man, do you think it's a little bit easier hey, their cost may be $22,000 a year for just healthcare? Doesn't even include long-term care, which is the next page. You think you'll have a harder time or an easier time offering them a insurance policy with long-term care if you're able to show that information clearly? But if you never got that information, they got to take your word for it. But if you do get the information, it's an assessment that was sent to you by a reputable company telling them what these costs are likely going to be. It's just such a great tool, okay? And then the last thing I would leave with them is, I'm going to assign them homework probably no matter what, but specific homework I will assign someone who's nearing retirement is, all right, when you send your statements over, here's the other thing I need you to do. I need you to go to ssa.gov and get your estimated Social Security income at 62 and at full retirement. So they may know what those numbers are right now. Almost nobody does, okay? The next question is, you have already uncovered at this point, do they have a pension? If they are lucky enough to have one, do you think they would know how much they're going to get in retirement? Maybe 5% of people know what that number is. They just know they have a pension. They have no idea what the number is going to be. So how I frame this is, look, part of what we need to know in planning for your transition into retirement is how much guaranteed income's coming in the door. How much do we know is going to be there to keep the lights on every month, so that we can plan for your vacations, for all the goals and things you wanted to do, that vacation house that you wanted to have, all the things you wanted to do in retirement. We have to know, though, what is going to be the money that's going to keep the lights on, feed you, pay the bills every month. So what I want you to do is go to your HR department at work and ask these questions. When are you fully vested? And you can start accessing your pension. How much would that be if it was at the earliest point, right? Also, do benefits increase if you wait? And how much do they increase every year? And lastly, at what age do pension benefits max out? How much will it be at that point? So you're trying to gauge kind of a window. They may want to retire at 62, but if you can convince them, and I've done it many times where they want to retire at 62, but they see the value of waiting a few years because how important it is every year Social Security goes up by 8%. If their pension's going up, how valuable that could be for them, how valuable that could be, right? So they can see that there's a window here, maybe between 62 and 70 that we're playing with. And so based on how long they take to go to decide to really hang up the gloves is also going to determine how much fun they're going to have in retirement. The earlier they retire, the less fun they're going to have, the less money they're going to have if they're going to live, right? No one can predict the future, right? And everyone's got different health situations, and different feelings about retirement early versus later. But people who are pretty healthy, they see the value of holding on for a little longer, working a little longer so they could have a little bit bigger pot at the end of the rainbow, okay? And so that's when I would probably circle back, and I haven't edited this yet in here, but okay, great. So that's pretty much what I wanted to gather from you. That being said, are there any stay awake issues that we need to discuss or any questions I should have asked to get to know you a little bit better? Such a great question. I started asking that about a year ago, and I think it's a great question because it just makes sure all the stones are uncovered and that any last things that they could think about are mentioned. This is their chance to do it, so you can include it in your recommendations. And then the last thing, and this is the closing. And I hear I'm bouncing back and forth here. It's a little bit harder to do this than if you're actually in front of a client, ironically, right? But when you get to this point, and I just after the goals is when I actually do this. So is what can you save, right? So they said 500. I would just say, what's the range of what you feel you could save every month towards these goals? You said 500. Do you think that you might be able to put away a little bit more? Is that 500 a stretch? What do you think you could put away as a minimum number every month? What do you think if you really stretch you could put away as a maximum number every month? Okay, I would say that before I'd ask that last question. So sorry about that. Hopefully Jeff can edit this. but the last question. Let me see if I can get this out of my way here. Hold on a second. It's like blocking me from. Hold on. Gosh, there we go. Okay. So last question is, so here I'm going to go back and do some due diligence on this. I'm going to do some research for you to really help build that bridge plan for your retirement and really hit the goals that we've laid out. So when I come back, if you really like everything I put together for you, would anything prevent you from moving forward with the recommendation? That's such a great, important question because if they have someone in the business that's a friend of theirs or a family member, right, that they would probably have them do it, then you're just going to be wasting your time. Right. So you want to definitely get a yes answer here. And if you don't get a yes answer, you almost want to dig in and find out what could be the objection there. What could be the reason why that wouldn't be a yes answer? Because you just told them, if you like everything we put together for you, right? Almost everyone's going to say, no, not at all. And what does that do? It gives you permission to do business, right? That means the next time you're coming out, you're doing some business. You may not do all of it, and you probably, especially if it's a retirement planning situation, you're not going to do all of it. You're going to do what's most important on the list first. You're going to come back. That's a transition. The transition planning takes 4 or 5, sometimes more meetings, and that is also showing your value, by the way, to the client, of what you're willing to do to make sure that they have the retirement that they deserve. So that said, the last phase here would be the recommendation and getting referrals, and of course, follow-up. My follow-up is, beyond a thank you note, is every quarterly event, every financial economic summit we have at the office, every time they have a birthday, I am reaching out to my clients, my A clients especially, every time we have something that I can get in front of them that is going to add value to them, where they're going to think about me, or they're going to think about people they know as well that I could help. Okay, and back into this again. Last thing is, this is also part of. I didn't even mention this as well. Sorry again, going back. You want to find out who they're working with as well. You could find out now. You could find out when you come back. Okay. I just think at some point you need to find out who their CPA is, who their mortgage broker is, because if they have CPA that's recommending that they, for example, put into a traditional IRA so they could deduct defer delay every year. You don't want, the last thing you want is to be making recommendations that are against what the CPA is making. It's probably going to happen because we're going to probably say Roth IRA a lot of times. But if you're on the same page with a CPA, it's going to reduce a lot of friction. You don't want the CPA coming back and poisoning your client's mind against you in any way. So that's just for practical purposes. You want to have a relationship with the people that matter regarding their financial situation. They may or may not be working with somebody in these areas, but if they are, that, by the way, I think is your number one referral that you have right off the bat. And that's where you can say, hey, I'm expanding our business here. We're all over the Chicagoland area, and I find a lot of my clients, especially locally, around where you live, they don't want to drive an hour to their CPA or their whoever. They want to have somebody local. So is this person really good? Are they taking care of you over the years? You really trust them? You kind of want to almost interview them about that person, right? And say, would you mind if I gave them a call? I may have some referrals from them. Guess what they're going to say 100% of the time? Absolutely, call them. Right now, you can start to have kind of a team approach with that client, but also you could start to really build your list and talk to professionals that you want to grow your practice with. So that being said, sorry, I went a little bit out of order there in some of that stuff, but I think you probably caught most of it.